The packaging of these earphones is really cool, but we're not going to talk about the packaging of the Cambridge Audio Melomania Touch. We're going to talk about the audio quality and how they actually compete with a variety of different true wireless earbuds. Now these ones cost around £130 in the UK and around $150 in the US. If you're interested in purchasing it, the link in the description below will take you to your localized Amazon store. Also down there you'll find some alternative suggestions, all from earphones that I've heard and I've reviewed in excess of 60 different true wireless earbuds, so I'm sure you'll find one that will suit your needs if it isn't these Cambridge Audio earphones. Now there's also links to my social media platforms, so if you're on Instagram or Twitter, yes I know it's a shameless plug, but if you want to keep up with the channel, definitely check me out on social media, and of course give me a subscription and a bell notification so you can keep up with the videos when they go live. And furthermore, if you're interested in keeping up with the latest news or reviews on all electric or hybrid vehicles, definitely check out Totally EV. I am essentially reviewing a new car every single week, so it's pretty exciting stuff over there as well. So to kick things off, let's briefly look at what you get in the box, and it's pretty simple. Well, you've got some ear wings, which is nice to see that you've got small, medium and large, and you've got a Type C to Type A, very short cable for charging, and then you've got a set of small, medium and large silicon tips. It would be nice to see some foam tips included, but nevertheless that is not the case. Now onto the case itself, I really like how it's designed. It's just got a really nice sort of slender design, and one that's kind of well, it's got a kind of fabric or leather type of look to it. One that also fits really well, so if you're going to be placing it in your pocket, you're not going to have any problems. And there's no wireless charging capabilities, but you've got a Type C input, and it takes roughly 1 to 2 hours to charge from empty to full. And in terms of battery life, these earphones are claimed to run for up to 50 hours. That's including the case. However, you're probably going to be using it on the more performance mode. You can enable or disable the toggle through the app, and I'll show you in just a bit. And therefore this means that the earphones last for 7 hours on a single charge, while the case provides an additional 33 hours, so therefore totaling up to 40 hours. So you lose 10 hours of battery life. But really that is perfectly fine for most people, and I think most people will be pleasantly surprised by that overall battery life there. Now in terms of the design of the earphones, I have no issues whatsoever with them. They've got a slightly larger footprint than some other earphones on the market, but really in terms of how they look like and how they fit, well, I had no issues whatsoever. It is worth bearing in mind that if you were to go on a very hardcore gym workout, and while these are IPX4 certified, I feel that most people will probably aim to go for something that has got an over-the-ear design, or something that's slightly slender in terms of their look. If you want suggestions, do check it down in the description below, but ultimately you'll be looking at the Shure or the JBL earphones instead. Now, in terms of the operations of the earphones, it's pretty simple. It's got touch-sensitive pads, as the name might suggest, Melomania Touch after all. Now, on the left-hand side, if you were to hold it, it would reduce the volume. If you hold it on the right-hand side, it increases the volume. If you double tap on the left, it goes back in terms of your songs. If you double tap on the right, it goes forwards, and if you tap once on either side, then it will play pause. You've also got the ability to activate your voice assistant as well, but that's something that I actually disabled through the app, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. Now, touch sensitive buttons aren't for everyone, but the fact that they are actually called Melomania Touch would mean, well, they would have to have touch input. And in this respect, I actually find that the touch pads are extremely sensitive in a good way, and furthermore are very responsive. I didn't find myself frantically tapping at my ears at any given point, and in this respect it's a testament that the fact that the earphones do very much say do what they say on the tin. In other words, they're touch sensitive earphones which actually do a good job in terms of having a touch input. Now elsewhere, in terms of the design of them, they come in black and a white color, so it's nice to see two different options for people to have. And in terms of the comfort of them, I had no issues, specifically with the ear wings. And they also didn't attract too much wind noise when I took them on a bike ride, so therefore it didn't have too many problems in terms of protruding too far out of my ears, although your mileage may vary in this respect because there are slightly larger sized earphones in comparison to other earbuds on the market, and as a result you might find that you'll have less wind noise or potentially have a better fit if you have a smaller sized earbud altogether. Now next up we get onto the app, and first off I do want to mention something in terms of updating the firmware. I did have a problem in terms of updating the firmware. I will touch about connectivity in just a bit, but ultimately it did require me factory resetting the earbuds after I had fully updated them via the app, and it had some sort of hissy fit, but then after that it's now running the latest firmware. Now through the app itself you got a few different options, and it's quite nice in terms of the interface that they've used. First off, you've got transparency mode, which you can enable or disable, and you can adjust this in terms of the level of transparency you want. So I think most people will choose between 50 and 100% because, well, you want it to be transparent of some sort. And then you've got a Find My Earbuds function, which you can have as long as you've got a network and you've got your Bluetooth enabled and all that stuff, which I've got currently disabled for a variety of different reasons. And then you've also got the equalizer function. Now I really love the fact that you've actually got a 5-band equalizer. It's a shame that you can't customize where the EQ actually starts or finishes, but it's nice to see that you have got a pretty basic one. So you can imagine that's the mid-range, lower mids, upper mids and bass and highs. So I up the upper mids by a few notches, as you can see, and then you can save it in terms of your custom profile, and you can save 3 separate custom profiles, or indeed you can use the preset ones which are built in via the app. So it's just nice to see that you've got customization and the fact that it works in real time, and it's just good for you having the ability to customize your earphones and tailor them to your liking. As for the settings, so at the top over here you can customize what the actual controls do. As you can see, I've disabled the voice assistant on and off, so I just don't like that function because I don't use a voice assistant, but if you want to enable it you can. And for example, you can also disable the fact that it doesn't respond to your volume up or down features. It's a shame yet again that you can't actually customize what the earbuds do, at least not at the time of making this video. And this is actually quite rare. Codec selection, you've got aptX and AAC. As you can see, I've got an Android device, so I've got both options, and you've got the SBC codec as well. But it's just interesting that you actually get this option. Most of the times you don't actually get an option like this. In fact, unless you go through developer options on Android, you won't see that. So it's nice that Cambridge Audio have actually integrated that option. Then in terms of audio mode, you can see this is the one that I was talking about in terms of the battery life. You've got the high performance mode or the low power mode, and it actually explains the fact that it's going to affect your battery life. And then you've got the voice guidance, which I've got in English, but you've got a variety of languages to choose from. And in terms of firmware updates, it's not connecting because I haven't got any internet connection right now. But ultimately, you can update your firmware directly from here as well. As for the More tab, you can see a user guide and a few different things. For example, if you want technical support, you can access it directly from the app. Ultimately, the app is pretty well done, and I'm pretty impressed by it, other than a small little hissy fit that I had when it came to updating the firmware. And now we get on to call quality, and everything you can hear right now is coming directly from the earphones. Now what I will say subjectively is that the actual call quality is pretty competent, to say the least, in comparison to other true wireless earbuds in the market. I must say I'm pleasantly surprised as to how it reproduces my voice. It's pretty clear, and it doesn't seem to overemphasize the low end tones or the mid tones too much to make it sound artificial. So Cambridge Audio, well done on the overall recording quality. So by comparison, here are the Jabra Elite 75T, which I often use as a reference in most of my true wireless earbud reviews. And the reason behind that is because the Jabras do a better job than most of its competitors in terms of cancelling environmental sounds and therefore honing into your voice instead of what you can hear around you. And the same could be said with the Cambridge Audio buds, but still, on the whole, Cambridge Audio have done a fantastic job in terms of getting the most in terms of the call quality, and again, should be definitely commended. Now that's all well and good, but what about connectivity? Well, I read online that some people were having connectivity issues. I saw some reviewers as well point it out. Now, aside from actually updating the firmware of these earphones, I didn't have any other connectivity issues. They didn't have any dropouts between left and right drivers, and I didn't have any problems in terms of connecting up to my Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. They would immediately connect to my phone when I took them out of their case and immediately switch off when I popped them in, which isn't the same thing that could be said about some of its competitors. Sennheiser, yes, I am looking at you. What I'm trying to say over here is that I had no issues, and your mileage may vary, but it's just something I thought I should highlight given that I did my research before doing this review as well. Now there's another thing I do want to kind of point out, is that there's a very, very faint hissing sound that can be heard when the earphones are not in use. In other words, When you play music, then pause, you'll hear a very faint hissing sound. The same goes when it comes for calls, and you will hear a very faint hissing sound. Again, it's kind of to do with the Bluetooth transmission. I've noticed this in other earphones, but it's nowhere near as present or as bad with these Cambridge buds. It's just something I thought I should just highlight in case you're very sensitive to that. Now, on a more positive note, they support the SBC, AAC and aptX codecs, and given I'm on an Android device, I actually utilize the aptX codec to, well, full fruition, and in this respect I'm very much impressed that Cambridge Audio have integrated these 3 codecs, specifically the aptX codec, which ultimately delivers higher quality audio over Bluetooth. And so now we get on to sound quality. Now, these earphones are definitely impressive in terms of their overall sound reproduction, and I must say, specifically if you were to tailor the EQ to your preference, at least in my case you saw it potentially before, the fact that I just EQ'd the upper mids a little bit, you'll get a nice all-round sound, which is something that's quite a rarity at this price point. So let's break it down. First off, let's talk about the sub-bass frequencies. Here I feel that the Cambridge buds don't really compete with the likes of the Jabra Elite 75T, which are somewhat similar priced in terms of well, the earbuds that you can find. Here the Cambridge buds sound a little bit more tailed off. You don't really hear that low end extension, and while you can EQ it, you're still not going to get an exact presence that you hear and you'd feel in the Jabra earphones or some of its competitors. So for example, JBL, which have this kind of inherent type of sound signatures, which is more bassy. As for the mid bass, it's very tight and controlled, which is really nice, but yet again, not that pronounced. Again, you can EQ it, but it's just not going to compete with the likes of the Jabra or the JBL earphones, which are inherently a little bit more bassy sounding earphones, and therefore will excite bass heads or those people who want a little bit more oomph in their music. But that's not what really Cambridge Audio is really known about. They're actually really renowned for their mid-range and generally in terms of having a bit more of a balanced, neutral type of sound. I use that loosely when it comes to reviewing True Wireless earbuds because you don't really get it unless you really go high-end, and even then you still don't really get a balanced, neutral sound. What I'm trying to say over here is the mid-range is fantastic, and something that really stood out for me, even when I was comparing it to flagship True Wireless earbuds which are made for audiophiles, for example the Grado GT220s or the Sennheiser True Wireless Momentum 2s, or Momentum True Wireless 2, anyway, whatever the naming structure is, they're very comparable to these flagship earphones, and that is definitely a testament to the Cambridge Audio brand, but furthermore in terms of the price point that you're looking at. Here I couldn't think of a better sounding earphone that has a more forward sounding mid-range in comparison to these Cambridge buds. There's some One More earphones, there's JBL, there is Sennheiser CX 400BT, there is the Jabra earphones, there's quite a few to say the least, and in this respect all of them have got more of a V-shaped sound signature, and that's not the case with the Cambridge Audio buds. Relatively speaking, again, set your expectations, you're not going to get a flat sound signature. And as you might have noticed before, and as I commented before, the fact that I did add a little bit of an extra notch to the upper mids in order to get just a little bit more presence in that upper mid-range tones. Again, your mileage may vary, and of course the beauty of having the app is that you can tailor it to your own liking and of course to your own music. Now as for the highs, I felt that they produced a really nice zing at the top end. You could EQ a little bit more, but it depends in terms of your hearing. Personally, I found that they just were pretty good at their default EQ. They do tail off at the very top end in comparison to flagship True Wireless earbuds. But adding a bit too much to the EQ will make them sound a little bit sibilant, a little bit harsh, specifically if you're listening to a little bit of louder volumes. So on the whole over here, what I'm just trying to say is that the highs were good, and for me, they were pretty flawless. And finally, onto the Soundstage. Here is where these earbuds really shine. Now they won't quite compete with the likes of flagship earbuds, or will they compete with earphones that have an inherent open and wide type of sound, such as the Creative Outlier Air, which are fantastic budget earbuds. Now these, in comparison to let's say the JBL, the Jabras, or the One More earphones, do a good job, or should I say the best job, in terms of instrument separation. You hear a great sort of width and depth, and therefore you hear fantastic instrument separation going from all over different places within the earbuds. And it's something that is quite a rarity nowadays when it comes to True Wireless earbuds, and I just love the fact that Cambridge Audio have kind of addressed this, or actually looked into it, in order to get the best in terms of, well, a good overall soundstage, which then yields to a great overall sound experience, and that's ultimately what I'm going to get at, that the overall sound is really fantastic, and at this price point I couldn't think of a better alternative. Yes, there are ones which have a little bit of a better bass or a little bit of a better high extension or a little bit of a width, but in terms of combining all of them into one package, I think Cambridge Audio should be really commended. So on the whole, what do I make about these earbuds? Well, truthfully, I think Cambridge Audio have done a really good job, specifically in comparison to the original, the Melomania V1s, which I actually found to be pretty disappointing in terms of their overall sound, specifically in terms of the Soundstage department. This is where I really feel that the Touch earbuds do a better job. I don't know in terms of housing or in terms of driver, but the overall sound that you get from these earbuds is far superior than their V1 predecessors. And in comparison to alternatives that you can find and the price they come at, I can't think of a better all-rounder. They have a good design. They've got touch input, which is actually really responsive. And while I'm not a fan of touch inputs, generally speaking, I think Cambridge Audio have done a good job. You've got a nice selection of tips. You've got a good design in terms of the earbuds themselves and the actual case. It looks really slender. It's got a good battery life. You've got really good call quality, which is quite a rarity as well. And more than anything, you've got a good overall sound signature, which then brings it all together. Now, they don't have ANC, so the Jabras might be a little bit better in this domain, or the Libratone, for example, Track Air Plus might be a good suggestion, or even the One More earphones if you've got a little bit more budget. And they won't be quite suited for gym workouts in comparison to, for example, a Shure Aonic 215s. But on an overall package, if these things don't really matter to you, or if you just want a great sounding earbud that does it kind of all and is in one nice tidy package, then these are the earphones that I would recommend. And as a result, they actually get my Best Buy award, which isn't something I normally throw around. So that's just my thoughts and opinions about it. I'll be intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And of course, if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe to see more, and favourite and share, as it always helps the channel grow. Alright, I've been Totally Dubbed. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.